When you think of electric cars, there's one name that comes to mind for most of the Western world: Tesla and the world's richest man, Elon Musk. But in just a few short years, China has done the unthinkable, built a global competitor so successful that it's not only challenging Tesla for the title of world's biggest EV brand, but giving China a platform to reshape the entire future of global trade. In today's video, I'm going to show you how a car brand most Americans still can't buy has become the world's EV king, and how Chinese factories from Europe to Brazil are rewriting the map. This isn't just a car story. This is the story of who drives the future. And right now, China has both hands firmly on the wheel. For more than a decade, Tesla wasn't just a car company. It was a movement. Elon Musk took a niche idea about electric cars and turned it into a global obsession. For years, Tesla stock appreciated due to the company's cult-like following. Elon Musk made EVs cool, futuristic, and fast, something people actually wanted to drive. At its peak, Tesla wasn't just selling cars, it was selling a vision of the future: clean energy, space travel, and limitless innovation. It inspired a generation of automakers to follow. But while the world was celebrating the genius of Elon Musk, something very different was happening 7,000 miles away in China. A small battery company named BYD, short for Build Your Dreams, was quietly building its own future. Let me take you back to 2011, when Elon Musk famously laughed at the idea that BYD could ever compete with Tesla.
BYD is trying to compete. Why do you laugh?
Have you seen their car?
I have seen their cars, yes. In fact, at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, I saw their cars.
Yeah.
You don't see them at all as a competitor?
No.
Charlie Munger, the notable right-hand man of the world's most famous investor, Warren Buffett, went on record stating, "I have never helped do anything at Berkshire that was as good as BYD. BYD is so much ahead of Tesla in China, it's almost ridiculous." Berkshire Hathaway made a $230 million investment in BYD in 2008, and by 2022, that investment had grown to over $9 billion. That's a 3,813% return on investment for Warren Buffett's company, because he saw and understood the vision. While Tesla was conquering Wall Street, BYD was conquering supply chains. They weren't just making cars, they were building the batteries, chips, and the software that would power an entire industry. And that's when everything began to change. In 2024, BYD officially pulled ahead of Tesla to become the largest electric vehicle maker on Earth. Just think about that. A company once dismissed as a battery manufacturer now produces more electric cars than the man who made EVs famous. What's even more remarkable is how fast it happened. From 2018 to 2020, BYD's growth was remarkably stagnant. Then, as the pandemic reshaped global supply chains, BYD quietly doubled its output 3 years in a row: 2021, 22, and 2023. Last year alone, BYD produced over 4.3 million vehicles, including both fully electric and plug-in hybrids. BYD didn't just win because of subsidies or cheap labor. It won because it controls every step of the process. It makes its own batteries, semiconductors, and even the software that runs its cars. That vertical integration gives BYD a pricing power no Western automaker can match. While most American and European car companies rely on complex global suppliers, BYD builds everything at home at its company headquarters in Shenzhen. That means faster innovation, lower costs, and total independence from foreign bottlenecks. And now, the company is going global. BYD's sleek Dolphin and Seal models are flooding markets across Southeast Asia and South America, and the brand has its eyes locked on Europe. Just 2 years ago, not a single BYD had been sold in the United Kingdom. Today, BYD has overtaken not only Tesla, but also legacy brands like Honda, Fiat, Mazda, and even Mini, a British icon itself. BYD delivered more than 35,000 cars in the UK in the first 9 months of 2025, an incredible 880% year-on-year increase. Dealerships can't keep them in stock, and BYD just opened its 100th showroom across the country. For British drivers, BYD represents value and reliability, but for China, it represents something far more powerful: proof that a Chinese brand can out-innovate and outcompete the West on its own turf. BYD's success isn't stopping in Britain. It's part of a much bigger story, one that stretches across continents. All over the world, Chinese automakers are doing something the West never expected. They're taking over the global car industry, factory by factory. Across Europe, companies like BYD, SAIC, and Great Wall Motors are opening new plants in Hungary, Turkey, and even Russia. Their cars are flooding showrooms from Milan to Madrid, where consumers are discovering that Chinese EVs are cheaper, faster to charge, and packed with impressive technologies that no Western car brands can match. But perhaps the most symbolic transformation is happening in Brazil. The New York Times highlighted this story earlier this month. in an article entitled "Chinese Car Giants Rush to Brazil with Dreams of Dominating a Continent." And the data inside this article is fascinating. Just a 2-hour drive from Sao Paulo, one of the first Chinese EV factories in the Americas is getting ready to open. Until recently, that plant belonged to Mercedes-Benz, a pillar of German engineering. Today, it's owned by Great Wall Motors, a company that used to make rugged pickup trucks for rural China. And just down the road from that factory, BYD took over another abandoned symbol of Western industry, a Ford plant that had been producing cars in Brazil for nearly a century. Brazil represents a fascinating case study because it's the perfect example of how the global balance of power is shifting. Chinese EV makers aren't just selling cars, they're exporting China's entire ecosystem into developing countries. In doing so, they're binding countries like Brazil closer to Beijing's circle of influence through trade, technology, and shared manufacturing, something the United States has never done. Even Western auto executives are sounding the alarm. Ford CEO Jim Farley recently said, "We are in a global competition with China. It's not just EVs. And if we lose this, we don't have a future." In Europe, Chinese car makers now hold 20% of the EV market. In Brazil, their imports have tripled in just 1 year. Everywhere you look, the same story repeats itself. Western automakers retreat and Chinese automakers are moving in. And while Washington keeps banning Chinese EVs from US soil, Beijing is building them on every other continent. So here's the question that nobody's asking. With hundreds of new electric factories springing up around the world, where is all the electricity going to come from? Goldman Sachs just projected that data centers will need 165% more power by 2030. That's the equivalent of 92 new nuclear reactors. And just look at this graph from Bloomberg, which shows every region in the world is going to have to prioritize energy production for the future. Because when you're running trillion parameter AI models and building electric vehicles, you can't afford a blackout. And that's exactly why nuclear power, once shunned by Wall Street, is now back from exile. Global banks are reversing decade-long bans on nuclear funding, and New York just ordered its first nuclear reactor in 37 years. China currently has over 25 nuclear reactors under construction, but here's the real bottleneck. Every reactor runs on uranium, and supply is already running out, especially for the United States. So where does the USA get its U? America imports 99% of its uranium used for nuclear fuel. This is a big problem that the US government is addressing, and there is one company who is the sponsor of today's video, which is uniquely positioned to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. It's called Uranium Royalty Corp, ticker symbol UROY on NASDAQ. And here is why I love this company. They actually don't mine uranium, nor do they build reactors. Their business model is built on collecting royalties from uranium producers all over the world, meaning they profit from the upside of uranium prices without taking on the mining risk. Today, UROY has 25 royalty interests across 22 uranium projects, with approximately 2.4 million pounds of uranium in inventory and over 220 million in cash and marketable securities, with zero debt. As nuclear power fuels the AI revolution and uranium demand skyrockets, UROY is positioned right at the center of the coming uranium squeeze. Now, if you're interested in learning more about this company, I'm going to include a link to their investor presentation, company website, and ticker symbols down in the description below. Please do your own research before making any investments, but I think UROY is a company that should be on your radar for the future. But now that we've talked about the energy fueling the electric revolution, let's get back to the battle that's defining it, Tesla versus BYD. Because while China has been expanding its EV empire abroad, Tesla has been struggling to hold its ground. 2025 has been one of the most turbulent years in Tesla's history. After Elon Musk's massive $277 million donation to the Trump campaign, he was rewarded with a powerful new role in Washington, heading the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Within weeks, Musk's chaotic management style turned into government policy. Thousands of federal workers were laid off, and controversial cuts hit programs like Meals on Wheels, pediatric cancer research, and even air traffic control. The backlash was immediate. Tesla dealerships across the United States saw protests, vandalism, and online boycotts from former customers who once viewed Musk as the visionary behind clean energy. And that sentiment wasn't limited to the United States. In Europe and the UK, Tesla's brand image collapsed almost overnight. This chart is fascinating and shows how Tesla's monthly average sales have declined in double-digit numbers across Europe, with Spain and France being extreme examples, both declining 75 and 63% respectively. By mid-2025, Tesla's sales in Europe had fallen 34% year over year. But here is the interesting fact. Overall, EV sales across Europe were up 34%, meaning that the market is actually growing. Just not for Tesla. Instead, Chinese automakers are taking these customers. BYD sales in Europe have surged more than 250% this year alone. And while Elon Musk was busy fighting political battles with his once close friend Donald Trump in the White House, China was quietly working behind the scenes in Europe and sticking to their mission of providing the highest quality EV product for the most affordable price. But here is where things get even more interesting. Europe continues to follow the United States and imposes heavy tariffs on Chinese EVs. But remarkably, this hasn't stopped the momentum, because even with higher prices, consumers are still choosing Chinese brands for their technology, range, and affordability. It's a remarkable reversal. The company that once defined the electric future is now falling behind the country that mass produces it. And what's happening to Tesla today is a preview of what's coming next for the rest of the Western auto industry. When I first went to China in 2007, American and German auto companies like Buick and Volkswagen dominated the domestic Chinese auto industry. For almost every foreign auto company, China was a cash cow, with dealerships selling out of inventory month after month. But in recent years, the market has shifted. China has matured, and now the future of the EV industry, and in reality, the entire auto industry, is firmly in China's control. China understood something long before anyone else did. Electric vehicles aren't just machines that move people, they move power. Every EV factory is a new trade relationship. Every battery plant is a new source of leverage. And every country that builds Chinese cars is one more partner in Beijing's global network. While Western countries debate tariffs and trade wars, China is quietly building an empire of production, one electric car, one port, and one factory at a time. And whether it's batteries, solar, or nuclear energy, one thing is clear: the country that controls electric cars will also control the next century of global trade. Everyone, thank you for making it to this point of the video, and a huge thank you to Uranium Royalty Corp for sponsoring today's important message on electric cars and the future of energy. I'm very bullish on nuclear energy for the future of our world, and believe it's the only way the world can generate enough electricity to power the new AI revolution we are currently going through. Make sure you check out Uranium Royalty Corp and their investor presentation, which I've linked in the description below. Once again, thank you all for your incredible support, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next video soon.